So we're going to begin this wonderful month of June by saying our new affirmation. So I'll say it first, then join me. In the maybe I won't. One moment. In the stillness, I surrender to the presence and power of God within me. I'm grateful. Let's say that together.
In the stillness, I surrender to the
power of God within me. I am grateful. And so, number one is we always have a volunteer for the month. And the volunteer for the month is someone who probably already read the bulletin. Diana. Thank you. She didn't read it, but somebody sent her a text. Don't you guys know you're not supposed to do that? Okay, read your bulletin. Diana does everything. She's still doing bookkeeping for the church. She was on the board. If you need a ride anywhere, at any time of day or night, you call her and she'll say yes. She brings food. She helps people left and right. And she was on the board, so now we can honor her because she's not on the board anymore, but she's still doing the checkbook. We love Diana. And she's a chaplain too. So if you need someone to pray with you, Diana's been trained to do that. So we love her. You want to say anything?
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. We're happy that we have a unity family here compared to Chicago. It's just been a blessing. Love you all, and it's just all I can do to give and help in any way. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful daily word. It's divine order. Sunday, June 3rd, 2018. The order of spirit is always unfolding. The order of spirit is always unfolding. If I have eyes to see, I may mistakenly focus on appearances. Prayer is not a magic wand, but a way for me to change how I see things. I close my eyes and shift my vision to a bigger picture of the activity of the divine in and through me. I open my mind to new revelations of Spirit's good. With each breath, divine energy lives within me. I gratefully surrender as to the spiritual certainty that my life is in divine order. Like seedlings growing in fertile soil, each thought of harmony and abundance take root in my mind. I see with greater clarity the order of consistently unfolding. The reading, He changes times and seasons. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. Daniel 2:21. Divine order is the word for today. The affirmation, the order of spirit is always unfolding. Together, the order of spirit is always unfolding. Thank you, Greg.
And now is the time where I invite you to visualize our sanctuary as a beautiful heart. And let's see this heart moving in and around and encircling us, moving up to the children, to Kayla, blessing our whole space, knowing that God is the source of all that we need, and blessing all that is happening. And just breathe into our heart space, allowing our heart to be filled with love, with caring and compassion for ourselves and each other. And in our heart, if you know of anyone in need of prayer, bless them and allow them to be with us. And if you know of any circumstance that's in our world, especially on the Big Island, on Kauai, we know that it's all in divine order. And we bless them and love them and send them that loving spirit. And we bless our world, everyone and everything in it. And we do so by singing the prayer for protection. And now I invite you to get comfortable where you are. Close your eyes if that feels right to you. We begin our time of centering and prayer by just breathing. I invite you to take a deep breath, the very breath of life that is God, and we hold it for a moment. As we exhale, we begin to relax. Breathing in again deeply. Holding it briefly. As we exhale this time, we quiet our mind. We calm our emotions. Once more breathing in. And as we exhale this time, we rest in the consciousness of our heart. We now relax our breath with an easy in, easy out. We know that each breath that we breathe is pure life, and every exhale is releasing and letting go. We breathe in, God is, and we exhale saying, in me. And we affirm the truth of peace, be still. Peace, be still. Peace, be still. As we settle into this holy place, we know and affirm that there is only one presence and one power active in our lives and as the universe, God the Good. Whatever may be happening in your life today, we just set it aside. We breathe into the happiness and the holiness of this moment. We breathe love into every situation, into every circumstance, knowing that everything is in divine order. Whatever need you may have this day, even if it is a need for gratitude and thanksgiving, as we go into a time of quiet prayer, whatever may be on your mind or in your heart, go into that sacred place of the Most High. Truly ask, seek and knock for divine direction, and listen. Listen for that still small voice that guides and directs you right here and right now in the silence. Taking another deep breath. And as we exhale, we smile, showing the light, the love that is God within, that spirit that knows no boundaries. And we give thanks for the gloriousness of this day and this moment. And so it is. Amen. We're so blessed. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my new friend. And I have to tell you a little bit, Norma's a TV producer, and a mindfulness teacher. So we're so blessed to have all this good stuff coming to us today. And so I don't know what else to say about her. She's a kind, gentle, loving, wonderful, generous person. And she came. She said yes, because I was guided to call her. And it was like, wow, it just happened. So here she is, getting used to all of us and getting used to unity. So, Norma Rubio.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I'd love to just thank you so much, Rev Deb. Rev Deb, I love that, for inviting me here today. I have been here since Friday, and all I can say is I'm completely moved by the sense of community, almost to tears actually, even in this moment, by the sense of community and hospitality and generosity. And from what I understand, that's all part of the Aloha spirit, am I right? Yeah. So I was telling my housemates, thank you so much for graciously hosting me, Kathy. She's been a wonderful host. That I think we need to bring the Aloha spirit to the mainland. So I'm going to recruit a few of you to bring it to Los Angeles, where I live. Yesterday, I spent the day on Kukio Beach. Beautiful, beautiful beach, and so much stillness. I think me and maybe one other person throughout the 3 hours I was there, which, by the way, I got a little bit of a sunburn. And then I walked over to another part of the beach, and I saw an elephant or a Hawaiian monk seal resting on the beach. Apparently, it was one of only 5 on the entire Big Island, because they're endangered. And there are apparently only about 1,400 or 1,500 in existence. So here I was in the middle of the beach on the Big Island, getting to experience this gloriousness of a very rare creature resting on the beach. And apparently the seal, which was, her name is R8, that's her tag number, R8, she was molting. And I had never heard of molting. It's this process where they shed their skin. She'd just had a pup not too long prior to that, and she'd come up on the beach so she could shed this layer of skin, and she was almost done. There were just a few little snippets of dead skin remaining. And according to the lady that was there telling me all of this, one of the volunteers, it's a process that these seals go through often during this time of year and after they give birth. So it's part of their life cycle process. And as I was thinking about today and coming here and what I want to talk about, I was thinking, how cool is that? Like, I recently have just gone through a molting process. I've unshed an entire layer of skin, and I've rebirthed into this new area in this new existence, this new way of walking on the earth, the new me, in the first time in years. I'm in my 40s, but I've done this before. I've molted before. And this latest molting process has actually brought me here to this room today. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, because I really believe that we all go through these cycles in life where we're continually evolving, and we think we want one thing, and then we end up changing, and we do another, and then before you know it, you're playing the piano on the Big Island, about to be the music director in Arizona, right? So before we do that, what I'd love to do is just ask us to all get grounded for a moment, and if you will, I invite you to close your eyes with me. We'll just take a quick moment, only if it's comfortable for you, of course. This is just my way of getting us grounded in the room, and me grounded to settle nerves and to be able to get present with you in this moment. So taking a breath and exhaling. Perhaps noticing the body in the chair, listening to the sounds in the room, and just tuning into the heart space. May this message serve to awaken or to inspire or to uplift or to simply just be what it's meant to be. And then taking a deep breath in, exhaling out, opening your eyes when it's comfortable for you, and thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So this is what I do today when I am panicked, stressed out, nervous, afraid. This and a few other things that we're going to talk about in the workshop later for those of you who are coming. And I, of course, invite every single one of you to come and learn about mindfulness. But let me start with how I got to this place and this idea of mindfulness. So imagine, if you will, and I know there are a few people, including Kathy, who have been to Arizona. Imagine, if you will, a very, very hot, searing day in Phoenix, Arizona, middle of May, 2013. I, as a TV producer, have been sitting on a street curb outside the courthouse in downtown Phoenix for probably 6 weeks, covering a very graphic murder trial. Now, a lot of times people think, oh, as a TV producer, that life must be so glamorous. You get to go here and do this and do that. And oftentimes it is. I've covered the Academy Awards. I've covered President Obama. I've gotten to do some really amazing things as a TV producer and a news journalist. But more often than not, it's not very glamorous at all. We're oftentimes sitting on street curbs, eating Slim Jims and Doritos, and using our GPS for any possible bathroom in the area, because oftentimes we're in disaster zones where it's the middle of nowhere and we literally don't know where to find food or water or where to use the bathroom. But in this particular case, I was the coordinating producer for this particular trial, and this woman was on trial for having bludgeoned her boyfriend to death. It was a very graphic trial. And she had eventually gotten convicted, and all along she had said that she had not committed the murder, but that she had committed the murder, but that she'd done it in self-defense. In the end, the jury thought differently and convicted her of first-degree murder. So as the coordinating producer on site, you're basically in charge of everything. I mean, kind of like what Rev Deb does here. You just sort of make sure everything's moving, you're going, you're getting on TV, and especially in today's news cycle, we're on TV 24/7, It's morning till night. So there's very little sleep, you're not eating well, you're really tired, and in this case, searing hot conditions. The whole time we were covering this trial, we had been getting word that we really needed to get an exclusive jailhouse interview with this woman, if we could. And so that was something that was kind of happening behind the scenes. I was busy trying to make sure we were getting on TV every day. She got convicted, and now I'm back for the sentencing trial, one of 3, I believe. This was the very first one. And by this point, as you may have noticed by watching the news, interest had waned because they'd moved on to some other breaking news story, and they didn't care a whole lot about this trial anymore, which meant that all of our resources were gone. It was just like me, a cameraman, a reporter, and like a satellite truck operator. So now I'm doing the duties of a lot of different people. I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, and it's super hot, and I'm really tired, and my life just feels so depleted. At this point, I've missed every birthday, I've missed every family event, I've missed all of my social outings because I'm constantly on the road, and I get the call. The jailhouse interview is happening. It's happening tonight. It's happening in an hour. Let's make it happen. So I'm all excited and nervous because I only have such a short time to get this interview together. And we do, and we get everybody in. It wasn't exclusive, unfortunately. We get everybody in, we set up for the interview, and by this point my nose is bleeding because it's so dry. I'm feeling like rashes on my leg because it's so dry, and I'm hot, and I haven't slept, and I'm not eating. And somehow we make it happen. And we're in the weird room in the jailhouse, and we sit down, and the the woman who's convicted of murder, the convicted murderer, is sitting not like maybe where that chair is there in front of me. And my reporter's sitting here and I sit over here on the side. And I look up and I see, just like this light here, it's got a cover on it, I see the cover dangling right above her head. And I think to myself, oh my gosh, if that thing falls and injures her or injures anybody for that matter, like it's all on me. I'm the person in charge here. I'm gonna lose my job. They'll never hire me again. I'll never work in this town again. My life is over. So I threw up a prayer. I just threw up a prayer. And I want to come back to that moment where I threw up a prayer. But first, let me tell you just a little bit about where I come from and how I got there. I'm just gonna walk a little bit just to help me get some air. I am the daughter of a Mexican immigrant who came to America illegally. My dad wanted a better life for himself. He had 12 brothers and sisters, lived in a mud hut, was working since 2nd grade, and there just wasn't a lot going for him. So he decided to come to America. He met my mom, they got married, they had me and my brother. So my whole life growing up, well, not my whole life, a short part of my younger years, my dad did not have papers. He was not here legally. And he also didn't speak any English. So what I saw him trying to learn to speak English, and then I saw people making fun of him and laughing. And then I saw him reacting to that with this deep embarrassment and shame. And so I internalized that as, oh, we're second-class citizens. We don't belong here. We need to feel ashamed. This is how my life is gonna be. And so I didn't, of course, know that at the time. I just knew I always walked around really self-conscious, really kind of ashamed, a little bit embarrassed, worried about what you were thinking of me. And then I got to school and I started getting straight A's and I started getting involved in theater and sports and you name it. And I noticed that when I did that, people paid attention. They looked at me and they said, oh, wow, Norma, good job. You got straight A's. Wow, that's awesome. You were in the play. Oh, wow, you're so cute and good and smart. And meantime, we were growing up in a whole different church environment, nothing like this. It was more the kind of church where, like, if you're not perfect, you're gonna go to hell kind of thing. So I was trying to be perfect, and I was trying to be a good girl, and I learned that if I achieved great things, people would notice. And if people noticed, that meant I mattered. And I just wanted to matter because I felt like I didn't matter. And so I grew up achieving. And then I went to high school and I achieved some more. And I literally would wake up at 6 in the morning, go to student council, go to school all day, go to basketball practice, go to theater rehearsal till 10 o'clock, come home, do homework till midnight, wake up, do it all over again. Little did I know that was preparing me for a life of producing. But it didn't stop there. I just kept thinking, if I achieve, then I'll matter. And if I matter, then you'll love me. And if you love me, then that makes me okay to walk on this earth. And what I learned to do along the way was worry. Worry about what you're thinking about me. Worry about if I'm doing enough for you to like me. Worry about this and then regret the past. Oh my gosh, I wish I would have made that shot. Or oh my gosh, why did I say that to that person? Look at how they're looking at me. Or just constantly in my head battling with these thoughts. There is something about that obviously served me because I ended up going to the #1 news network in the world and covering news all around the world. I've been to the Olympics. I've done some amazing things. But there's a sacrifice that I paid for all of that. And I started to feel like something was missing. All this achieving and all this trying to get you to like me and trying to, feel this sense of prestige, like, oh my gosh, if I get this, then I'll be important and I'll matter. And what I noticed was I started to get some of those things and I still felt empty inside. Very empty. And then came that moment on May 13th of 2013. I'm not sure what actual day in May. And I had been living my life this way. Busy, busy, busy. No time to really tune in, and no time to really explore what this emptiness was, because I couldn't look at myself. So here I am sitting in the jailhouse with Jody Arias. And I look up and I say, oh my gosh, if something happens, it's gonna be catastrophic. My life is over. Dear God, please let this interview go well. And not a split second later, I felt my heart sink to my knees. And I had the second thought, which was, why am I asking God to give voice to this convicted murderer when there are so many other amazing voices that deserve to be heard out in the world? Uplifting stories, stories of inspiration, stories of hope, stories of people like Rev Deb. And so I decided in that moment that it was time for me to leave that career and to have the courage to take a risk, to do something different. Now, on a side note, I had been doing yoga and meditation now for about a decade, and it was serving me somewhat well. But when I finally left that job 3 years after I had that moment in that jailhouse, I dug deep. I had my dark night of the soul experience. I didn't know who I was if I wasn't Norma Rubio, NBC News TV producer. Who would even bother to talk to me? And so I went there. I started digging really deep into meditation and mindfulness. And what I realized along the way was that there was language to this experience of stillness that I somehow was getting glimpses of along the way. But I wasn't allowing myself to go fully there because I was so busy trying to achieve and trying to please everybody and try to make sure I didn't screw up. I had such a fear of failure. And I intensely studied. I went to silent meditation retreats, which if you've never heard of it, you actually don't talk for 3 to 10 days to one another. You put your phone away. You don't journal. You don't read. You're just there alone with your thoughts. And during those about 3 years, I discovered so much about who I am. I discovered that all that shame that I'd been carrying and all that hopelessness that lived within me was simply something that I had programmed myself to think and do all these years, and that I had the power to change that mindset within myself. And I also discovered that if I just took a moment to get still, that it's possible that I might find some answers within. And guess what? I have. One of the biggest answers that I got was, I matter. I matter. Simply because I'm a child of God and I walk on this earth. And does that mean that I don't still struggle with anxiety and fear and shame and embarrassment and wanting you to like me? Oh gosh, let me tell you, I want every single one of you to like me. That's not part of what I've learned and what I teach now. What is, for me, the solution-based part of that is accepting that that's going to be part of my humanity, knowing that I don't have to live within that identity of I'm not good enough, but knowing that it's just going to show up from time to time. And by the way, that's where mindfulness and mindfulness meditation have come in so handy for me, because they're actual tools that I draw upon in those moments of suffering. In those moments when I think to myself, I don't know how I can do this. In those moments when I'm ruminating about something that I'm stressing out about, I learned to give myself a little bit of compassion to get still. So there's no fix to humanity. We're going to suffer. But through mindfulness and meditation, what I've learned is I now have a better relationship to my suffering. And I don't have to identify with it. I don't have to be a victim of it. I can just experience it as it moves through my body. And so for those of you who are going to be coming to the workshop a little bit later, I just want to let you know that what we're going to do is talk about what mindfulness is. We're going to even delve into a little bit of the science of mindfulness, because there really is now scientific evidence that suggests that we can actually start to rewire neural pathways to get us to living into a more present awareness state, which is where we find that meaning and richness, which is where we become closer to who we really are, not all that stuff that gets in the way. And of course, if you have any questions about any of it that we're going to discuss or talk about this afternoon, please, by all means, feel free to come and ask me any questions, and I will certainly be there to help you with any questions that you might have. And so before we close, I would like to simply read a poem for you, something that I read in my mindful self-compassion classes. And by the way, on a side note, that girl who said, I want to tell stories of uplift back in 2013, just earlier this year, gathered all the biggest thought leaders in the world, best-selling authors, people who have been on Oprah, not all of them, but 13 of them, and interviewed them in a little series, and I got to talk to them, and I got to share it with thousands of people who emailed me from all over the world to say, wow, that really touched me. Wow, that really inspired me. Wow, what that person said changed the way I thought about this. And just because I had the courage to do something that really scared me, I got to have that experience of knowing that now I get to impact people in a different way. And not everybody's going to love it, but those that get something from it, that's where the reward is for me, and that's where the beauty is. So I hope that you will come to the workshop a little bit later, and we'll talk a little bit more about what all of this mindfulness stuff is all about. So let's close with a poem, and if you'd like, you can close your eyes, and we'll all just sort of end in some stillness. And by the way, I'm loving the theme of today, the stillness theme. Unconditional by Jennifer Wellwood. Willing to experience aloneness, I discover connection everywhere. Turning to face my fear, I meet the warrior who lives within. Opening to my loss, I gain the embrace of the universe. Surrendering into emptiness, I find fullness without end. Each condition I flee from pursues me. Each condition I welcome transforms me and becomes itself transformed into its radiant, jewel-like essence. Thank you.